So welcome to Gallifrey Pirate Radio, where we're continuing our special episodes where we are doing a primer of the various Doctors leading up to the 50th anniversary. And even though we're a tad late on this one, we are talking about, as you could probably guess, thanks to the scarf, we're going to be talking about Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor. I am your host, Davey Beauchamp, and I'm joined by...
Drew Meyer.
And Angela Pritchett.
Okay, some little facts about Baker. We'll start there, or the Fourth Doctor. His tenure started in 1974, 2 years before I was born, and lasted until 1981. He had 7 seasons, which equals 41 stories and 172 episodes.
Impressive.
Yeah. The longest running Doctor on screen, since other Doctors lasted longer, technically between regenerations, but I mean, he does have the record for the longest tenure as the Doctor on screen.
Which, at this point in time, was the only way you could be the Doctor, as there weren't there weren't novels and there weren't anything other than the shows itself.
He had 8 companions. We'll talk about them shortly. And, he is probably the Doctor that really brought Doctor Who to the attention of most Americans. Or this is at least the Doctor that most Americans remember because of PBS and everything like that.
Sure, of course.
And he also tends to be a lot of people's favorite Doctor. The Fourth Doctor.
The Fourth Doctor.
The Fourth Doctor. I don't know what just fell.
It would be the cat.
Was it the cat?
Well, one of them.
Probably was. Baker. Where sort of to start? His first appearance was Planet of the Spiders, regenerating after the departure of John Pertwee. I am sorry. We have a new guest here.
She's not new. She's been on previous episodes.
Yes. We have Pooter joining us again, talking about Baker as well, who is loving on Drew.
What an apt name, Pooter. Hi.
I think you know why.
That's a lovely smell you've discovered. Hey, look at that. There we go.
Sorry, Poo Poo.
She's determined. Just to warn you.
Come over here.
Oh, I got a feeling.
Okay. So, let's start with any opening thoughts, remarks, things about Baker that you might have. Or the Fourth Doctor, I should say. It's hard to separate the two.
Baker was my first Doctor. Easily. That was, while I can't remember what episode it was, the first time I saw Doctor Who was certainly a Baker episode. And more importantly than the episodes proper was Baker as an individual in the Marvel comic books, because that's really where I got into Doctor Who, was reading the comics as a kid. I collected those, but only the Baker ones, because I did not understand regeneration. Regeneration had not been explained to me, since I didn't know anyone who watched Doctor Who, and my parents didn't want to check Doctor Who, so I hadn't read any books. So if there was a comic that had McCoy or Davison, I did not read them, because I didn't want to read one that had something to do with some strange blonde guy or that short guy with the funny vest, because they certainly weren't the Doctor. So,
Angela.
This is the Grumpy Doctor. But I can't remember if this is one of the first ones I saw or not, because I saw most of them either on PBS or when I was working at a store. Like, we had a whole bunch of VHSs that the owner had copied. And so I would just pop them in and watch them while I was at work. But I can't remember. I can't remember exactly which book I bought first for which Doctor. It's either 4th or 5th. Maybe 3rd. I can't remember exactly. So long ago. They kind of blend in after a while, especially when you're reading about them as to seeing them, because at that time I didn't have the visual. We didn't have the internet, so.
right.
Yeah, I wonder how the course of Doctor Who would have gone if we would have had the internet.
Did you see that show? Man, those cardboard backdrops shake a lot.
Did you see
I don't want to watch this
oh
show
my gosh,
anymore.
It took forever on my dial-up for me to be able to watch it. Those little 3-minute MPEG clips that I had to watch each episode on and download each one.
Well, I mean, with this Doctor, the Fourth Doctor, you know, we get the shtick of the Jelly Babies, even though Trout in the Second Doctor was the one that first introduced him to the show and the Dominators, and then again we see him with the Three Doctors. He offers the Brigadier some Jelly Babies. So we don't know, you know, if he would have had that shtick otherwise. He was also, to me, the Sonic Screwdriver Doctor. He used that quite a bit. And this is the Doctor that gives us the regeneration limit. Because at the time, you know, they never thought they would make it to, you know, 13 regenerations. Because I mean, they were in the fourth. I mean, that number seems so far away. I mean, it's kind of like Star Trek, where, you know, the eugenics war happened in the year 2000 or something. You know, it happened way in the future. You know, 40 years in the future for them. So I think those are sort of the big things that we get out of here. Hey, can you think of anything else that, you know, was really sort of helped define the mythos of the Doctor?
I don't know, but when I went to the Harry Potter area at Universal Studios, I was so excited that they had Jelly Babies in Honeydukes, the little candy store in there. I was like, oh my goodness.
I'll be honest, when I went to England for the first time, the first thing I did when I got off that plane and I made it to the train station, because I pretty much have to go to the train station to go anywhere past that, I found a candy store, I got Jelly Babies, and I thought they were the most disgusting candy I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, I'm not actually
Yeah,
a
they're
big
not-
fan of
they're
them
not.
or Jammy Dodgers, but I think one of the things that we get with Baker too is I don't even know if this is even a word, the bureaucratization of Gallifrey. Because we have the home script, we have making them into squabbling bureaucrats, and so Deadly Assassin, we get I guess that's where we get our 13.
Yeah, that was it. It was also the only story that he had no companion.
Yeah, I guess that's
Or
true.
companion, you know,
Proper
official.
companion. Yeah, and that's the thing is, while they say he didn't have a companion, there are still characters in there that played the part of a companion.
Yeah.
There was just no one who started in the TARDIS in that story with him and ended up leaving with him at the end.
Well, I mean, and also, you know, with Baker, you know, and actually Deadly Assassin, we get the Master back in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. After, you know, Delgado's untimely death. But before we get downers, you know, talking about deaths and stuff, because, you know, this was also we hit Sarah Jane, Liz Sladen, the Brigadier, Nicholas Courtney, both, you know, have passed. I well up when I think about the two of them. But since we're sort of on the topic of companions, because I kind of moved us there. Companions. This is who you know. They claim the companions proper are Sarah Jane Smith, good old Harry Sullivan, Leela, K9, Romana, Adric, Nissa, and Tino Javanka. Even though I could see you throwing, you know, the Brigadier in there, but I feel like you could throw the Brigadier in both the third and fourth Doctors as companions.
I'm trying to remember when the Brigadier actually got into the TARDIS and traveled with them.
Wasn't it the three Doctors?
I guess so. Yeah.
Because that was the first time because he made a comment, because I don't think he had been in it before. I want to say that was it.
Was it how they traveled? Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I know, and we've mentioned this before about my feeling of the Brigadier being a companion. And I mean, in the truest sense of the word, I suppose he is, but it doesn't feel like it. But because I don't think he ever really, I guess with the exception of the three Doctors, goes on adventures and maybe Modern Undead with the Doctor.
Five Doctors. Battlefield.
Doesn't travel with the Doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, he's shared an adventure.
Not the point I was making.
Yeah, I know. I'm just defending
So
that
if-
the Brigadier is a companion.
And you are allowed your opinion just as I'm allowed of mine. As far as the companions are concerned, yeah. So, for me, and I know I've said this before. I mean, obviously, when it comes to companions, it's really hard not to say that Sarah Jane Smith is just kind of your out-and-out favorite. But I think as far as those companions, and though you really should say Romana 1 and Romana 2, because
I was just going down the list really quick. But no, I totally agree. I mean, they're two totally different characters.
I'm a big Leela fan, so.
Yeah. I was gonna say, besides Sarah Jane, I mean, who would?
Yeah, you can't go. I've yet to meet anyone who said, I just didn't like Sarah Jane Smith. She was too.
And honestly,
awesome.
I could see Adric being a companion for this Doctor, but I do have. It's tough to say Nyssa and Tegan because they came in at the very, very coattails, so they could be companions for the new Doctor, Davison. I could definitely see Adric. Being because he was there with E-Space and everything else. But Nyssa Tegan, they did travel with him, but I don't feel like they had the tenure to be full-fledged companions with that Doctor. I mean, yes, they are companions of the Doctor, but I don't feel like they had enough screen time with him as the fourth Doctor.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
So, who would be your favorite companion? Taking the Brigadier out, taking Sarah Jane out.
My list had Leela,
yeah,
K9, and Sarah Jane on it.
Yeah.
So I love Leela. Like I've already said this a ton of times. Like when we did the Face of Evil and Townsend Wang Chang, I love Leela. So.
I'm gonna say this. I think overall, and it may be because I remember because PBS did show these a lot. I really like all of his companions. I really loved Harry, and I don't think a lot of people give Harry enough love. I thought he was a great companion that never got a chance to shine because, like we just discussed before, they weren't sure who they were going to be casting as the fourth Doctor, and they had Harry in there as the young strapping gentleman, kind of like Ian Chesterton was for Hartnell, and he kind of fell to the side because they really didn't need him when they eventually cast Tom. Leela, she has her moments, I love the Eliza Doolittle side to her. K9, I know some people hate K9. So I love K9, and I had totally forgotten that there were actually two different K9s, or at least two different voices for K9. I had forgotten about that there was a voice switch there. Romana 1 and Romana 2, they each brought something incredibly special to the part. And it's really sad that Mary Tam did pass not too long ago. But the great thing with that, she did get to continue her adventures thanks to Big Finish. So, I mean, that's really nice. And she did some great audios with the actress that played Leela, which I'm Louise Jamieson, which are thank you Big Finish for giving us those, and thank you Baker for coming back to be the Doctor with the first Romana for a little while she was around, and then Adric, the real kid companion. I mean that they hadn't had for a while. That a lot of people don't like him. They think he's the whiny one, but to me as a kid, he was the one I related to the most. But honestly, for my favorites, there's this, of course, Sarah Jane, of course, Brigadier, but I think rounding that out it's sort of tied between Harry and K9 for me. I really dug Harry why we had him on the show.
He basically played the same part. I mean,
Yeah.
To malfunction, be comic foil, and occasionally knock things down.
Yeah.
Harry Sullivan was such an interesting character because he's supposed to be a doctor and a soldier, and with the exception of I guess his first story arc, which is Ark in Space.
Yeah.
He didn't really do either one of those.
No. Was he Navy or was he Air Force? I can't remember for them. Because I knew he was in Army. I want to say he was a Navy man.
I don't remember.
I must find out.
Okay. But Ian Marters was good, and it's a shame. I agree that when he came on board, he was very underused, and it's true the Baker Martyr Sladen time TARDIS team is a good one. It's a really fun one to watch, especially that first Ark in Space, Sontaran Genesis of the Daleks. That kind of those three.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the Nerva spaceship story arc, which is it's good. It's really one of the better early kind of crossovers.
And he actually died fairly young too.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. Of the actor, not the character Harry. But yeah, no, his character had real potential that, but never got a chance to really go much further.
He played a great android, though.
He did. Anything else you sort of want to say about any of the companions? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I suppose I could.
That you want to mention about these, the set of companions that the Fourth Doctor had?
Well, I mean, I love talking about Leela. I like Leela. I think she's a character that up until recently they hadn't done much with, in that she is a true alien, and that she did not act as a proxy for the audience the same way most of the Doctor's companions who were contemporaries, maybe up until Nyssa, who was Adric. I guess maybe that formula kind of worked, but with just the Fourth Doctor and Leela together, you got a character which was vastly different in the fact that our action hero was female. She comes from a completely different planet, so the Doctor had to explain things to her. But she was, and I can't remember what the phrase they use for it, because she's not stupid. She doesn't know information, but she adapts very quickly.
She does.
A very cool character because of that. And I think you were mentioning the Eliza Doolittle part.
Yeah, and
it's
And honestly, if you do listen to the Big Finish, I think it's the Great Gallifrey Chronicles and stuff like that. I mean, she really gets to shine. I mean, and become a very interesting character in those audios.
Well, she certainly deserves to be, considering how they got rid of her, which was such a stupid, so dumb. But
yeah,
of course, Invasion of Time. If you haven't seen Invasion of Time, you should watch Invasion of Time. It's very interesting. I know we talked about it briefly with Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, but it's worth watching. Just know that you'll be disappointed at the end of it.
Since we are sort of jumping in and talking about episodes here,
sure. Good segue.
Yeah, great segue. Drew came up with this brilliant idea for starting with the Baker stuff. I wish we would have thought about it more so with some of the earlier ones. Sort of our top 10, top 5. But because Baker has so many stories and stuff like that, it would be better to do a top 10. But because of 3 of us, we're probably going to have all vastly different episodes. We're going to pretty much show you 15 probably different episodes, or at least 10 different episodes that you might want to check out for the Fourth Doctor. So we'll start, since Angela has not said much, we'll start with your first choice.
My first choice, well, these are in really no particular order. These are just my favorites. Talons of Wing Chang, which I bugged and bugged and bugged for a very long time to review the DVD of.
And it was a solid episode. Especially with
very
being
long time.
What, 7-parter? 6-parter?
It's a long one. It was.
I think it's just 6.
6, but I mean, it was a very, because I think like I mentioned in the video or the review, when I thought it was like just a 4-parter, I was like, man, this is ending on a really down note, and then it continues on. But yeah, definitely check out a review of the Talons of Wing Chang. It was a very, and especially the special edition, the 3-disc was a phenomenal just purchase.
It's really good.
So Drew, what's yours?
Again, just realize that we're not giving you a primer of the must-see episodes of Doctor Who, just our personal favorites, and of course, I include the Talons of Wing Chang on mine as well. It being a Victorian London Doctor Who as Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, I mean, how could you not like it? Unless, of course, you're sensitive to racism, because it's fairly racist.
But it's very, for that time, it fit what was going on TV as it was, because that wasn't. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it for television then. Wow. They didn't really seem to think it was like that. Where
they were ignorant and insensitive, and it's still a good episode. So it's a Robert Holmes script. My next one is The Horror of Fang Rock, which is a episode 4-parter with Leela, which is kind of the one that I feel almost one of the ones that exemplifies the early Hinchcliffe era of the Gothic horror, which is, I won't explain the end, ruin the ending for you, but a murder in a lighthouse with a cast of 5 people which fluctuates throughout. And that's almost a flawless story from start to finish.
It's a great episode. I just watched it again recently just to refresh myself with it. Currently, I'm not trying to plug any video services, but it is on Netflix currently right now. So if you want to check it out, that's when you can check out if you have Netflix. My first one will be The Brain of Mobius. It's a Sarah Jane Smith adventure. It introduces us to yet another rogue Time Lord, Mobius, and it's just a fun Hammer horror Frankenstein monster type episode that Big Finish has gone back to and talked about, and it's a fun episode. I remember that from when I was a kid. I love the design, the piecemealed monster with the brain of a Time Lord, and I keep calling them Sisters of the Flame, even though I know they're not the Sisters of the Flame. It's just the thing that pops in because they worship the flame, and the doctor has to fix it, and he fixes it in 2 seconds. But it's a wonderfully fun episode for me, and it's a very controversial episode where we may or may not see previous regenerations of the Doctor. So it's a fun one for me. Brings back a lot of fun memories. So, Angela, your next one.
Next one is Face of Evil, Leela's first story.
Again, another one that we did a review on.
Yeah, we did do a review on this one. I don't know. I love the way Leela comes in. And how she kind of goes off with the Doctor, because she just kind of runs into the TARDIS and refuses to stay behind. So, it's a fun episode to watch. And we get to see, Mount Rushmore with the Doctor's face on it.
And sort of a timey-wimey episode. We talked about in the thing, the Doctor was like, I have no recollection of this.
Here.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
It is.
It really is a good episode.
Okay, Drew, your next one.
Pyramids of Mars. I know, we're all going to cover the same stuff.
I think most of our lists
yours and I's,
were the same.
Yeah.
Is that one that we've reviewed yet?
We have not reviewed the Pyramids of Mars, which
we need to. It's a really, really good episode.
It is. It's excellent. Again, Doctor and Sarah Jane, Gothic horror, space horror, good threat, intergalactic, Osiran, Sutekian threat. It's one of those classic ones. This is one that I would recommend as not only one of my favorites, but one I would recommend as an essential to understanding, kind of appreciating Baker's view. And again, Phil Hinchcliffe.
And another great point about that episode, Sarah's just like, well, we cover the future, we know it's going to be fine. Why do we interfere? And the Doctor takes her to the future and shows her what happens when you don't put time back the way it's supposed to be, or you don't save the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Good episode.
Yeah. For me, because I'm such a fan of these episodes, Robot.
Mm-hmm.
I love regeneration episodes. I love when we get to see the Doctor for the first time. They've always been a lot of fun. His regeneration's a little wonky with some metaphysics and other things going on, but I love seeing the actor be the part. Technically for the first time, even though sometimes it's not the first episode they film. But, Robot's just a great episode. It's a lot of fun with, we do have the Brigadier in there. We do have Harry in there for a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit like the unit's last huzzah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Well, technically, I guess. Anyway.
But you have a big, giant robot, another monster of the week sort of thing. It's just, I have fond memories of it when I was a kid. I love the design of the robot. Even though it's not Robbie the robot, but he fits in that classic, when you think of classic robots, to me, the robot is in there, Robbie's in there, the Lost in Space or about the dialects of Cybermen. I mean, to me, he has a classic feel. I mean, people know that episode. People know what that robot looks like. And he has cool Lego men hands.
Actually, I was familiar with that episode before I watched my first real episode of Doctor Who. We were at an airport in London on my way to India in '85, perhaps, and I needed something to read on the plane, and I picked this book on robots, and there was a whole page on that particular robot in there. Having never seen Doctor Who, that's what made me want to see it for the very first time.
Oh, awesome!
That image.
So, back to Angela.
Okay, well, the next one on my list was Pyramids of Mars, which you were just talking about. But the next one after that was actually one I read as a book first, which has a different name, Terror of the Zygons, which the book was Doctor Who and the Loch Ness Monster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Sarah Jane episode, and so it's just whispery Zygons.
Oh, Zygons. I'm very excited. It's interesting that you bring up Zygons, because at this point we know that one of the main enemies or monsters in the 50th anniversary episode are going to be Zygons. And actually also, Terror of the Zygons, Harry Sullivan's last regular appearance in Doctor Who.
And that technically would be the last kind of huzzah for Unit Bay, because the Brigadier's in there.
Yeah, but no, I mean, the Zygons, I've always loved the image of the Zygons. They're a great creature, and I mean, it's one of those I've been waiting, I've been waiting for the Ice Warriors, which we finally got. I've been waiting for the Zygons, which we're finally getting. And I really can't think of another a real classic one that I want to see brought to New Who, which I'm probably wrong. There's probably tons I would love to see.
One that Neil Gaiman said he wanted to do.
Oh God, the Yetis! Oh God, I really hope we get that. And I did like. This is totally me jumping track for a second. I did love the one little clip we got of the Yetis in the Name of the Doctor. But back to the Zygons. Terror of Zygons are definitely a great episode. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I love Zygons. I heart them.
Yeah, Zygons. If you expanded this list to the top 10, Zygons, Terror of the Zygons was definitely in there for me. But yeah, good episode, good solid episode, good creepy. And the Zygons are perhaps the weirdest of the Doctor's villains, just from the fact that they can only survive by drinking the milk, essentially milking the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, I know.
Or drinking the powdered milk substitute that we get from the truly amazing Zygon that fell to Earth from the Big Finish. But
yeah. Big Finish, if you can't tell, we love you. Which I think at some point we have to do an episode just talking about Big Finish in general.
Should.
So Drew, what's
Robots
your
of Death.
Nice.
Robots of Death is a great episode. It's just again, Leela episode. Solid murder mystery. Also Hinchcliffe era. And I'm sure anyone who's watched this stuff before realizes that, if I had to watch classic Who, the Hinchcliffe era would probably be that time I would watch the most if I had to choose. I have only one.
I would love to have met Hinchcliffe. I mean, he just from the DVDs and the interviews, he just seems... All those guys from that era are just amazing.
Well, he might be coming back to Gallifrey 1 this next year or so. He was here this last year, and apparently that was the highlight for a lot of people. So there's a chance. You want to go out to LA? That's the way to do it. But,
only if I have a trouble buddy. That's all I ask. Because I would lose my mind in LA by myself.
So Robots of Death, that's a hard one to describe without giving stuff away, because it is in fact a mystery, and it's to ruin the surprise. But the costuming is great. The story is fantastic. The special effects are actually really good, but I think the costuming and the acting is really what sells it. Good run by the Doctor. Excellent second adventure, really, by Leela. So,
for me, since I'm the host of the show, I'm going to cheat a little about what my next favorite Baker thing is, because to me, I see it as a whole story. You kind of have to bring together the E-Space trilogy. I adore the E-Space trilogy. It's cheesy at times. It's silly. I honestly, some people would say it's not all that great, but I mean, we have the departure of Romana, we have the departure of K9 in there, we have the addition of Adric, which to me is exciting because I know what's coming down the pipeline, especially nowadays, not when I was a kid. We find out who the ultimate enemy of the Time Lords are in a very, very bad story, which happen to be vampires.
That's not a bad story. It's a good story. I think East Space Trilogy is wonderful.
Yeah, oh no, I mean, I adore it, but, a lot of people don't have as many fond memories about it as I do. But no, I'm a big fan of all three of those,
Which one's your favorite?
Honestly, because it's so bizarre, the departure episode of Ramona and K9. Warriors Gate, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite of the three, followed by, I forget what it's called, but the one where you get Adric introduced.
Full Circle.
And then the vampire one is probably the least. So you watch out, you Twilight fans. Us Doctor Who fans know who our mortal enemies are. But it's just fun stuff.
Speaking of the classic characters that you'd like to see come back, the whoever the Viking time phasing lion men from Warriors Gate. They're awesome. They're very cool, and the use of that, the phasing and the special effects in that. Well, that's good. It was a really excellent episode.
So Angela,
Okay,
your next one.
My last one actually is Pirate Planet. Douglas Adams.
Oh,
story.
Douglas Adams. I wish he could have done
Steampunk
more.
Gal.
Yeah.
But that was just fun.
Mr. Trillionaire!
Yeah.
Oh, it really is a great episode.
K9 and Ramona. So K9, yay!
Yeah.
I geek out every year at Dragon Con when I see those guys with the K9s. I mean, I really do, because they do just masterful jobs.
They dress as K9 or they just walk them?
No, they have remote-controlled, full-size K9s that are just screen accurate, perfect. Actually, better than.
Well, it wouldn't be hard. I mean, K9's a gimmick, and K9 slowed down production, but, I assumed that K9 was a part of Doctor Who always, just from the comics, because K9 always made an appearance.
Yeah.
It was designed to attract the young kids, and it certainly succeeded, so. But yeah, Pirate Planet's a great episode, and again, the twist at the end is fantastic, over the top, hilarious, good acting. I mean, in a kind of bizarre sense, and as far as
is that the John Cleese episode?
Nope, that would be the next one we'll be talking about.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Alright. City of Death, the oddly titled City of Death, might probably has tied with Horror Fang Rock as my favorite classic Who stories. It is an out-and-out comedy that is Douglas Adams again. Douglas Adams. Its use of time travel as a storytelling technique is. I don't think anyone used it as well in classic Who. It's very rare you have an example of a Doctor Who story where the Doctor will get into the TARDIS and disappear from the main story arc and travel around without really interrupting the flow of the story.
Yeah.
But as soon as the Doctor does so in this, it just makes the story just that much more interesting and kind of draws you in more. And it's Julian Glover as the bad guy is brilliant. And I can't remember the actress's name who plays his wife. Is stupendous. The dialogue, and this was something that was written essentially in a weekend. They had an original script. Fisher, I think, wrote the original script for this, and then they didn't want to use it as is, so Douglas Adams basically had a weekend. I think he had 48 hours to put this together. So, but this is one that if I had someone who had never watched classic Who and was already a Doctor Who fan, and they understood the tropes of Doctor Who, but wanted to get a taste of classic Doctor Who, this would probably be the first one I showed them.
Okay, I'm going to cheat again. Host prerogative, which has actually been covered a little already. The Key to Time season. Yes, you could look at them all separately, but I mean, this is just, the first time where they took an entire season to tell a story. Each one had their own parts. It's sort of what Doctor Who does nowadays. There was an overall story, and it, even though he's having these individual adventures, they're all leading up to something big. And that's why I grouped them together. Because if you have a long weekend and you could stomach watching that much classic Doctor Who, and it's a great story. It's just a wonderful story. You get the first Romana with Mary Tam, who is phenomenal. You get the White Guardian, you get the Black Guardian. I think it's
Kroll.
Yeah. I think it's Douglas Adams at his best because he was, I believe, showrunner or something, or head writer at the time.
He was script editor at the time.
Yeah, and this, since we don't have Shada in its entirety filmed, the Key to Time was the first thing, I think, besides the Five Doctors, I bought on DVD. It was also the first time they released a box set too. This is some of the first things I bought on DVD. And even though I think as a kid I didn't realize they were all connected in that sort of way, because as a kid I didn't understand the concept of linear storytelling in a sense, the way it was, like soap operas, things like that. But going back and just seeing what they did, and for the first time on Doctor Who, this sort of, we're going to tell this grandiose story, why giving you all these adventures in between. It was just it's my childhood, a very big part of my childhood. I think the Key to Time is just a fun time for me.
What's your favorite of the Key to Time episodes?
Probably the first one, just for the sheer fact that initial interaction between the Fourth Doctor, Romana, and just that banter back and forth, and I don't need you. Who put this hole in my TARDIS console? It's just I love it. It was the start of something very, very magical.
What's your least favorite episode of the Key to Time?
I don't think I have a least favorite.
Really?
They all have a special place in my heart. You seem to have a least favorite.
Armageddon Factor, easily, hands down. One, it's a 6-parter, which at that point in time, they really didn't need 6-parters. Maybe Wen Chang not included, but
that one though, also you just kind of watch it, and after you're used to the 4-parters, you're like, wait.
It's continuing. It goes on.
Wait, what? Did he just lose?
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Baker's got some great stuff, and Adams certainly helps with that, with those.
Yeah.
Maybe you think of the Rebus Operation, Pirate Planet.
Yeah.
Androids of Terra.
Yeah.
Which is a great. Yeah, no, I agree. And Keys of Time was some of the first Doctor Who DVDs someone gave them to me actually. Unfortunately, they don't work on my DVD player, but I have them, so there's that.
Okay, so Angela, do you have any more on your list?
No, that was 5.
5 for me. We all ended on Douglas Adams stuff.
Wait, no, that was only 4 for me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What's your next one?
Because and it probably is the top of my list. That's why I saved it for last, because you guys had some overlap in some of yours. Legopolis. And you guys could probably guess why that's one of my favorites.
Sure.
It's a regeneration episode. Like I said, I love the regeneration episodes. And I won't lie, in that episode we also get our first taste of the next Dr. Davison. And anybody who's watched the show at all knows how much I love Davison. But not just that, it was a different type of death for the Doctor. Him falling to his death, and just some of the camera angles they used in that were different from what they'd done before. It was a bit more dynamic. They were doing different stuff with panning and stuff like that instead of just having an open shot like they did with Pertwee to Baker. It's a master story. I mean, as much as Delgado is made the Master, Anthony, what's his last name? Ensley. He was my master. You know how people say, this was their doctor. This was my master. This is the master I know was my first master,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll always have a special place in my heart. And I always do like the master doctor conflict, especially the master. They have to help each other, but the master in the end is going to betray him. He had the shrinking gun in this, turning people into dolls. That might have been in an earlier episode, but I mean, it has a lot of what I remember from my childhood as being those very, very fun episodes of Doctor Who, and Tegan Adric, we're leading the mystery of the Watcher was finally revealed in that, and he had a great regeneration thing where you had some cameos, be it from just taken from episodes of his various companions that if you do watch Castrovalva, they cut that scene where you don't get to see all the people rooting for the Doctor and his regeneration.
Yeah. I just remember them running around kind of a base, back and forth and up and down the steps for that big satellite dish a lot. I don't remember much from Logopolis.
Yeah, no, I adore, and actually this is another reason why I like the DVDs. They're part of the New Beginning box set. For some reason, I got this itch. I had never really watched any of the special features, any of the documentaries on them, but that's where I sort of started my documentary watching. And as a DVD set, it has some great behind-the-scenes stuff with the actors on the show and the production and stuff like that. Just on that entire New Beginnings box set stuff. I like the behind-the-scenes stuff. I didn't realize I was going to like it, and that's where I started my journey in the behind-the-scenes stuff and really starting to know what was going on behind the scenes in Doctor Who. But yeah, no, Legalopolis is probably my... I'm not going to say that's going to be the one I want to introduce people to with Baker with or anything like that. Or
that might be a poor choice.
or Doctor Who in general. But I mean, for me, that is probably my number one. And I didn't cop out and go with the 5 Doctors or anything like that for Baker or
Couldn't have.
Dimensions in Time or Shada because I really it's really sad that we never got Shada. Because I think Shada would have been considered one of the gems in the crown of Baker's Who. From what I've seen, I would love to read a shooting script for it now at this point. Because I mean, I've read the book that Gareth Roberts did. I've heard what Big Finish did with the 8th Doctor, and Shada with Lila Ward. And finally, when they released Shada on DVD, which I did a mini review on a while back, it was interesting to see what they were going to do, what they sort of had planned, because you really don't get a taste of what they were going to do with what little of survives of Shada. You get almost nothing, which I was really surprised of. I really thought we were going to get more on that Shada DVD, but yeah, they filmed. I mean, they absolutely almost filmed nothing on that, and it's a real shame. I really wish they would have that next season finished it, but I don't know why they never did. Do you happen to know why they never went back during that next season to finish it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they went on strike, so.
But that was at the end of the one season.
But this was the end of the season, so you're saying why didn't they go out and film it?
Yeah, I mean, come the next season when they go off strike, because I mean you're really good with some of this knowledge. I mean, do you happen to know why?
No, I just assumed that enough time had passed that it was time to move on. So.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it also gives us a sort of a lost episode in sort of classic modern Who in a sense, where we have all the episodes, and this is sort of like the what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, next to what they would have done for the 30th anniversary, which would have centered around the 4th Doctor, and what if he had survived Logopolis without regenerating, which is an interesting concept. I'd love to see them, write a book, tell that story somehow, some way. because I think they actually did have a script for it, which would have been, I think, a very interesting anniversary episode, and would have let Baker be Baker again, as the Doctor. Anything else you want to say about the Fourth Doctor in this sort of primer introduction to the Fourth Doctor?
Understand that if you're going to watch the Fourth Doctor and watch all 7 seasons, that you're going to get 3 very distinct eras during this. You'll get the first 2 seasons with Hinchcliffe, so very gothic horror, followed by Lloyd. No, not Lloyd. Williams. Graham Williams. And those, you get to see Tom Baker really kind of come into his own as a star. There's a lot of space disco. And then Jonathan Turner comes in towards the end there, and you see a dramatic change with the Doctor's uniform, the commercialization of it, the labeling, the branding of it. It's all good. I mean, Tom Baker is, in many, many ways, my Doctor. But you have 3 very distinct versions of that. In the same way as... no, I take that back. I was going to make a Modern Who reference, and it's not true. So, yeah.
Oh.
You really get to see how the producer will affect the show. And there's very little bad Baker.
One thing I forgot to ask you guys, just quick, do you have any favorite moments with this Doctor? Anything that, really stood out, as being like, wow, that was like one of my favorite scenes, one of my favorite moments with him?
Oh, man, Baker's got some great scenes because he's such a kind of an ass. There's a scene in Destiny of the Daleks, and this is odd that I would choose a Dalek scene,
Yes.
where the Daleks are chasing Baker, and he climbs up a rope and gets into an air shaft, and he goes, "If you're supposed to be the superior life form of the universe, why can't you follow me back in here?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Bye," and they shoot at him and leave. Just his overall taunting. Seeds of Doom, which is very obviously a Pertwee script, because it's got Baker jumping through windows and shooting guns and snapping people's necks. And just,
the snap.
But the funny too, and the thing is, he grabs the guy's head and he twists it, and you hear this horrible snapping sound. You should, certainly he's killed the guy, and of course 5 seconds later the guy gets up and rubs his neck and wanders off, and he gets to be dealt with in another way. Just the kind of rhetorical questions that he asks. He's just got some great moments in general.
Angela, any favorite moments that stand
his
out?
reaction to Leela running into his TARDIS, because at that point in time, Baker just didn't want a companion. He just got rid of Sarah Jane, so he was like, "It's just gonna be the Tom Baker show."
Here's my talking head of lettuce.
Yeah, and then can I stab him? Girl kind of just runs into his TARDIS. Is there?
She wasn't so much in the stabbing as the Janus thorns.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry. Janus. The Janus thorns.
Well, each time she was just like, "Can I kill him?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "No."
Doctor, should I dispatch him?
I think besides the regeneration scene, because I really love that regeneration scene because it's one of my favorites.
The moment has been
turns into
prepared.
Yeah, for her. And and I think it's probably one of the most heartfelt and touching moments in Baker's run is when he says goodbye to Sarah Jane.
It's an amazing scene.
I think
amazing scene.
that was them at their best, and I think they did it in one take. I think I remember reading somewhere, and just that it was just such a wonderful, wonderful scene.
They wrote that themselves.
Did they? That I did not know.
They took the original script. They didn't like it. They felt it was forced, and so they took a few moments and wrote it themselves.
And I still love the fact that the Doctor and the TARDIS still got her in their own location.
Yes, and it's great that they brought that back and in School Reunion and even mentioned that.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also where you get, strangely enough, her jumper outfit.
Ugh.
Oh, the Andy Pandy one?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well, it's the Hand of Fear. Actually, Hand of Fear is not a bad story. Eldrad must live, after all. Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are 2 of the moments, and also the crushed flower where it's been pulverized, and he has the driller mark. It's just one of those first moments I really remember of Baker's doctor in Robot. It always stood out in my mind. He's just looking at it through the jeweler scope, and interaction with the Brigadier and things like that.
His interactions with Sarah Jane are excellent. The getting her out of the there's a lot of why do I seem to like ductwork so much? She gets stuck in the ductwork.
Yeah.
And he's just messing with her until she comes out to hit him, and he gets her out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Tom Baker, excellent doctor.
So, anything else you want to say about Baker as the Doctor?
I think we've said a lot.
We've said a lot.
We have said a lot. So this is sort of our primer of Baker's Doctor. So this is one quick thing. We'll be at Con Carolinas coming up the first week of June, last day of May. And the cool thing about that one is we're going to be doing our primer for the 5th Doctor. I think that's a fitting stage for us to do it. I'm very excited. So come out, because not only will we be doing the live GPR panel where we're talking about Davison, we're also going to be on the 50th anniversary Doctor Who panel, all three of us, with some other really interesting and wonderful people. And then we're also going to be doing the Classic Who versus New Who panel, which what people don't realize yet, they're going to be surprised by this, is I'm going to be hosting that panel as well, and we are going to do it as a bit of a debate. And I have gotten my two co-hosts here to one be on the side of Classic Who, the other to be on the side of New Who to help out, and some of the other people that may not be as well versed. Though I've seen the people on the panel, they are going to be well versed, but it would be nice to have GPR represented on both sides of the debate. So anything else coming up that we should let people know about?
Time Gate is this weekend, so if this comes out before this upcoming weekend of the 24th and 25th, then no. So Time Gate was last weekend.
Yes. We're both jealous of Mr. Drew here.
Not going.
You're not going?
Not going, but then we'll talk about that another time.
Oh, that's a shame. So I'm sorry I brought that up. So I guess this is GPR signing off, and see you soon.